There it is. Welcome, everybody. Today's April the 1st, and I don't have any jokes planned. I'm sorry. If I was a little more prepared, I would have a really great prank planned, but we don't have one, unless somebody else wants to throw one in. But it's good to see everybody. My name's Chris Howland. I'm the admin and moderator of LA Sound Mixers, which is a group dedicated to mentorship and education of production sound professionals and also people learning the craft. We do most of our organizing on Facebook. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and we're just started hosting this video chat about 3 months ago. Looks like it's happening about once a month now. Usually the first Saturday is what we're kind of zeroing in on. It was totally inspired by Sabi Tulak and Blas Kisic and the COVID chats they organized back in COVID times when we were all sitting in our houses wondering what the heck to do. They organized a really great weekly chat that we all took part in. I think we did 22 or 23 chats that we live streamed, and it was just really great to connect with people from that were not in Los Angeles. And as COVID went away, the chats went away, and then we decided, everybody went back to their normal lives. But in my travels around Europe, I went there a couple of times over the past couple of years, and people were always talking about those Sabi and Blas chats were that they really love that, and it really helped them feel part of a bigger, like they were part of a bigger community, which is pretty cool. So that was, kind of the inspiration behind this iteration of it. So huge shout out to Sabi and to Blas. Blas is here with us today because this topic he's spoken a lot about what we're covering today. So welcome, Blas. I'm glad you're here.
And thanks for taking up the mantle on the meetings, Chris. I appreciate it.
It's cool. I can't do it without the help of some very special people, and that's Adam Young. How you doing, Adam?
Hey guys, I'm doing well.
Adam is here to help keep things moving along. He's a co-host. He's going to be, helping manage the room. And Jana Lopez, who decided she's camera shy now. There she is. She's also helping manage the room, and she's also taking down the notes so that we can, when we post this later on our YouTube page, you'll have the index points, what subjects we talked about where, and it helps to skip through, so you don't have to sit through the entire 2-hour chat just to try and find something. So her work is invaluable. It definitely saves my time. So thank you, Jana.
If I may, sorry, Chris.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick reminder to the new arrivals. Please put your city where you are, so we have an idea of where people are. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much. And yeah, please put your name, your city next to your name, because we like to get an idea of where everybody's from. On this topic today, I want to give a shout out to Lamps. Lamps Lampadinha is usually also an assistant moderator, but he's working today. So we didn't have Adam last month, and now we don't have Lamps this month, but thankfully they're both here, and they give us very valuable coverage. So wishing Lamps the best on his job that he's on today. And also want to welcome a contributor that we'll have on a little later. Doc Justice is going to join us and give us an overview on the new gear and the upcoming NAB show. And Doc runs a Facebook group called Strictly Sound Gear, and he's an admin and moderator of that. And he also has his company Halter Technical, which is a manufacturer as well. And so thank you. Welcome, Doc. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to jumping into it.
Sure. So our host today, trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. The host, our topic today is keeping your business organized, taxes, and we'll try to see if we can find some common ground for people who are not in the U.S. as well on that, and then finding jobs. Just how, if you're new getting started, how do you go about finding jobs to work on? And then the last kind of subtopic is organizing your network. When we talk about networks, we're talking about two types of networks. There's your network of producers and other mixers, people that give you work, your clients, so to speak. But then there's also your internal support network, your 6 or 8 or 10 colleagues that you share ideas with. Those are the ones you ask the stupid questions to. You reach out to them directly, and you help each other learn and grow in the craft. And so, there's your support network, and then there's your employment network. So that's kind of how we're differentiating those things. Those will be that'll be the topic we unpack today. I've invited the panel. Is going to be roughly the same panel that we had last chat, which was all the moderators from the various groups around the world. I'll do a quick roll call. I know that some could make it, some could not, but just say here if you're here. Kyle Petty from Vancouver.
Hey guys.
Hey, there's Kyle. Richard Thomas UK was out today. I also invited Shuli Saragosa from Madrid. He runs a European page. He just had a last minute thing this morning and couldn't make it. But next is Lauren Banjo from New York.
Hello.
Hey, Lauren, welcome back. And I don't know if Aaron Cooley made it. Cujo from Atlanta. And then let's see, Andres Moreno. I don't know if he's here. He said he might be a little late. And then Mark Hagan from Detroit, Michigan. Don't know if he made it. There's Tyler Faison from Dallas. And nope. Okay. And Jeff Wexler is here.
Hi, everybody.
Nice. Our kind of global knowledge master on everything. So those are the people. And of course, if you in the audience have perspectives to share from your experience, that is a very valuable contribution to this conversation. So please put your hand up, use the raise hand function, and feel free to jump in anytime. We will try to watch the meeting chat portion here on Zoom to see if people who have questions, but don't be afraid to speak up. We'd love to hear your input as well. Oh yeah, Patricia, what's up?
Sorry, I can't find my raise hand function.
Go down to reaction.
Under reaction.
Reactions. You
okay.
Tap it, and then there's the big bar. It says raise hand.
There it is. Okay, thank you. So can I raise my hand? Which is okay. I don't have an April Fool's joke, but I do have a riddle to start us off, and it happens to be on point.
Nice. All right.
Are we ready?
Fire away.
How do you make $1 million doing sound?
You quit and produce instead.
Here we go.
Okay, the answer is buy $2 million worth of gear.
Yes.
Ba-dum-bum.
Love it. That's awesome.
That starts us
Hey,
off.
some of this gear is people are selling it used for more than they paid for it new, just because of all the inflation and price hikes because of the part shortage, like all the sound devices recorders.
I know there's been kind of a bunch up in the lines, and the new stuff and the old stuff, and yeah, some pricing anomalies. I remember those pricing anomalies that happened when they first came out with the 6 series, and then it was like all of a sudden the 744T was an odd price range compared to the 6 gear. It was strange. So yeah, that's cool. But if for those of you who are newer to the craft, the manufacturers in production sound specifically usually come up with some pretty good zingers for April 1st. So be watching the social media channels of your favorite manufacturers, because they always have funny stuff to put out there, as long more so than most industries, which is kind of neat.
Lectrosonics always seems to go the extra mile on it.
Electro started all that. I think, they always had something that several years they really caught a lot of people, until everyone realized, well, it's April 1st, Electro is going to be doing their thing again. It lost a little bit of its zing, but
it's funny, but there's always new eyeballs coming into this crap that will see it for the first time. I remember the first one I saw was the transmitter that was literally fit around the AA battery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like the battery was the biggest part of it. So anyway, quick shout out to our sponsor K-Tek. They're a supporter of LA Sound Mixers, and they're a supporter of our efforts to kind of help educate and share the love of the craft with people around the world. In May, I know I've mentioned this before, but in May we're going to be doing 3 events. We'll be in Berlin, and I'll post the dates. I'll be sharing specific information, but in early May we're going to be flying into Berlin. We'll have an event there, and then we're going to go over to Hanover to visit Sennheiser and have a tour there, which is really cool. Last time we were there, we went to visit Sheps, and it was amazing. In 2019, we went to Berlin, and then Sheps is in Karlsruhe. But it was so much fun to just go and see the manufacturers, where they live, how they work, and they make all these amazing toys that we use and that make our life easier. So it's really nice to see the people behind the gear. So we'll be at Sennheiser in Hanover after Berlin, and then we fly on down to Milan. We'll be in Milan to visit Soundfish and Daniele Turi, and we're gonna have a nice a gathering there. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and then we'll drive down to Rome and do our last event in Rome. Which the events in Berlin and in Rome will be the Kin Strains Boom Operators Masterclass, which is called the Boom Right Seminar. And then so we'll have that, and then we'll have an intermission, and then we'll have a production sound panel discussion, which is basically another version of this chat, a live version of this chat that we'll have that I'll moderate. And we're gonna have some really, really great guests. Petrushka Mirzwa will be joining us, Mark Yolano will be joining us, and also Don Hale and Kevin Cherokee and William Monroe will be with us in Italy. So it'll be really nice. And we're looking forward to meeting up with some of the local people there too, and pulling some local people onto our panel, which is going to be a lot of fun. So keep an eye out for it. They're going to be live events only for now. We haven't really discussed filming it for streaming, but we'll see how that goes. But thank you to K-Tek for making all that possible. They're footing the bill for getting us all there. And Tino is just doing so much work. Tino Liberatori from K-Tek is doing a ton of work securing the venues for us, and the gear that we need to do it. With the Boom Operators class, everybody wears headphones so they can hear Ken cueing with the mic. It's a really good first-person accounting of his mic positioning with actors. They'll have actors on stage. It's a really interesting approach. It's interesting to see his approach to it. So if you can make it, that'd be great. But yeah, May, thank you, K-Tek. Yeah, let's love to move on to Doc. There's been a lot with NAB coming up. There's always a kind of a flurry of activity with new gear coming out. We've already seen a lot of releases in the past few months of gear. And Doc, I'd love to hear from you. What are you seeing from your chair there? What are the noteworthy developments in the new gear world? And then also, what are we looking forward to at NAB? What are going to be the marquee things of NAB this year?
Yeah, let me jump into it. First of all, we gotta set the mood. Yeah, so for those who aren't aware, I am the admin on a Facebook group called Strictly Sound Gear, where we only discuss the gear and leave the politics and policies and all the rest of the stuff to the other groups. So this is just gadgetry and geek talk. And with that, that's because I am myself a gadget junkie, which is what led to me starting Halter Technical and among other things. But there are a lot of exciting things to talk about in the world of sound right now. I'm going to get into a few of them. We'll open it up to talk about with the whole panel and the whole audience as well. But I want to start off by talking about something that I'm actually very excited about, and that would be the new Sennheiser EWDX Wireless. Now, Sennheiser announced the EWD last year. The EWDX is the follow-up system to that. It has larger frequency tuning range, tighter density, and this system basically offers an almost identical feature set to what the Shure Axient system offers at about a quarter of the price.
Wow.
A new EWDX transmitter retails for $469. So comparing that with the close to 2K from other manufacturers, that's exciting in and of itself.
I'm sorry, what was the price again?
$469 for a belt pack transmitter.
Wow, from Sennheiser.
Yeah, in
Jeez.
fact, this is the transmitter here. So this transmitter has a whole bunch of pretty amazing features on it. I won't get into all of the specs, but one thing you'll notice on that the display is actually an e-ink display, and that allows it to be readable in any sunlight, direct light, outside, inside, no problem. But also the display stays on when the unit is powered off, even when there are no batteries in the transmitter. It just keeps it stays on its last display.
You're saying
So-
it's magic.
Yeah, magic.
Hey, there's a question from John Paul Golaski. Is this the digital G5 that people were talking about? Question mark.
I don't know, because there is no such thing as a G5. What they introduced last year was the EWD, which is their digital version. So I guess you could call it in that same line.
Right.
This is the line. The line expands this year with the EWDX. They have their 2-channel half rack receiver, their 4-channel full rack receiver that has Dante and all of the routing and remote capabilities that you would imagine it does. They also have the Sennheiser software app, the Sennheiser software for desktop, and their Sennheiser app for the phones, which connects via long-range Bluetooth. So you can remote control via the receivers or from any other device you have. The transmitter not only takes those remote cues, it has 12-hour battery life. It can also run on AA's. I think this is a really exciting development in wireless. I hope to see a lot more of it at NAB and a lot more of it at future events, especially around Hollywood.
Right. I often wonder if there's going to be like ENG compatible receivers with this system as well. Like, you know, for Lauren just posted that too. Yeah.
So what I can say is, and read the tea leaves here, there is currently no bag receiver available. Got it?
Currently.
Got it?
Currently.
All right.
Nice. Well, that's really cool. It feels like just my observation of it. It's got a 4-channel full rack receiver, which kind of mirrors, Shure's 4-channel rack receiver. It feels like something that was again probably developed for theater uses, but we could certainly incorporate it on our cart builds when you have a rack.
I don't think that's actually the case.
Why?
Well, there's nothing that specifies this towards theater or church or installation use that separates it from what we're used to on a cart. Especially nowadays where we're seeing lots of carts. Carts go through this cyclical nature of being really big and powerful and then becoming smaller and then expanding again. And it's all kind of reactionary. Right now, we seem to be in this reactionary phase where things got smaller and now we're embiggening it all again. And people are used to having, the short axient fans among us are having 4-channel, rack 1RU receivers with giant consoles again. So the carts have moved towards this, and I think Sennheiser is recognizing this as well. Sennheiser's primary wireless business is in touring, of course. But I expect to see some more inroads into our world, especially with this new series.
Yeah, which to me, touring and theater kind of overlap. Just one's in a fixed situation, one's in a rack case.
Yeah, it looks kind of corporate-y to me with that, like, is that a push-to-talk mic or a podium mic or something?
Yes, that's one of their
Push-to-talk.
Goosenecks comms mics.
But that's also a wireless transmitter as well, like a.
It
What-
is.
that what
Yeah.
that is? Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like when like corporate-y people have like those roundtable discussions that they want recorded. I worked in AV before I did production sound, and that all looks familiar.
I guess those so I guess the antithesis of this would be between Shure and Sennheiser going this route. The antithesis would be sound devices with their with the Nexus receiver being 16 tracks, small box. You know, I guess that would be the other side of the coin in this case. And then
Yeah, it's not
Zaxcom with their small receivers as well that match the size of the Nova.
exactly. It's nice that among the wireless manufacturers that we're seeing a breadth of options here.
Yeah.
Those manufacturers that are fully ascribing to the modularity concept, those who are a plug and play all in one unit. So it's nice to have those options. It
True.
wasn't that long ago in our world where we only had a couple of options and
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's true. And I think it's been true for a long time now that production sound people come from all different parts of the engineering, craft. Whether they came in from live sound, or they came in from theater, or they came in from music studio recording. So I think it's nice to have this range of choices because it's all about what you're comfortable with, and the user interface and how we set up our world is very personal to each one of us. So yeah, you're right. It's really nice to have these options because some people just might be more comfortable might feel it's more robust to have rack mounted gear and doing that. And then there's it's different strokes for different folks, but yeah, I think it's unprecedented how many choices we have now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would encourage everybody who lives within a drive of an audio dealer to go in and get hands-on with any systems that you may have only read about or not be familiar with. There are so many different feature sets, and I truthfully look at wireless right now as deciding which compromises you can live with.
Right.
So being able to understand all of the features that they offer and all of the compromises that come with each set is key. I think we're, as a community, moving past the brand loyalty till death and voting with our dollars now. And it's nice to have, more than two candidates to vote for with our dollars.
For sure. Let's go to Jeff Wexler and then Blas.
Yeah, I just had a quick question on the podium mic. Is the transmitter at the base of that podium mic? So it would be a one-piece unit. In other words,
yeah, I believe so. I haven't read up too much on the podium mic itself. It's not something that really caught my eye, but yes, that's what it appears to be.
I was just curious because it seems like that could be very useful in those quick situations where you have to, where the art department's gotten a podium or whatever, and you need to put something up.
For sure. The handheld transmitter also, that handheld transmitter is also $469. And can attach any capsule as well.
Really good price point.
The pricing is really amazing.
For sure. Do we know the power of the transmitter? Is it 100 milliwatts or is it something different?
Oh, no, digital. So it's 10 milliwatt output power on the transmitter. They're claiming 100 meters range. That's the same range that Shure claims. Other manufacturers don't actually put a number on their claim. So it's nice to have something to point to. And I look forward to seeing a shootout between the two.
Yeah, that's cool. That is cool. Blas.
Yeah, I wanted to add something to what Doc just said about getting hands-on experience on the equipment. One of the reasons, there are many reasons why we should have relationships with the providers, the sound stores, the ones we call in Los Angeles the usual suspects. But there's many reasons, but one of those reasons is that if you have a relationship with the rental department, the repair department, if they know who you are, etc., is that you'll get your hands on a demo unit. And it's really, really, especially now, very important to get your hands on a demo unit, hopefully take it home and then incorporate it in a test that you can do, because you really can discover a lot of things much more than just by reading a spec sheet, because you have your own workflow. There are many tiny little things about sizes, things that you don't think about them at first, that have to do with how you deal with your equipment and how you work. So it's good to, if you get a demo or if you have an opportunity, do the demo and spend some time with the unit.
Very cool. Very cool. Caleb. Oh, you're muted. And I still can't hear you. You're unmuted, but I can't hear you.
Can you not hear me?
Oh, there you are.
Is that better?
That is better. There you go.
Okay. Doc, any experience with the sound quality of the new Sennheiser units?
No, in fact, these are brand new and not available yet. So no, I have not heard it nor gotten hands-on with it yet.
Okay. Do you know when it's going to be out?
They say first quarter this year, which just ended. So
Okay.
I expect you know, we know that they will have these on hand at NAB. So I assume that the dealers will get them shortly thereafter.
Okay.
And Julian posted a question. Are the antennas on the belt pack transmitter fixed? I don't know if we can tell from the pictures.
I believe that's an SMA antenna.
Oh, okay, so it can be interchanged. You know,
I believe so.
Okay.
I also want to clarify just to make sure that everybody is aware that, like, I don't work for any of these companies and I'm not a salesperson nor spokesperson. I'm just a fan and a geek at heart. So I encourage everybody, like, if anything that we talk about today or in the future piques your interest, you know, Google it and try and go see it for yourselves. It's one of the cool things about NAB. It's just being able to see firsthand all this stuff, even if you can't actually hear it there.
Yeah.
Getting familiar is
I'll
awesome.
add that the doc is not actually a doctor. But
This is not
definitely-
credentialed anyway. I've played it many times.
But everything else you said is absolutely true and is commendable. So
he's not a doctor, but he will have a look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Ethan. Hey, Ethan. Ethan is one of our Reddit mods. We just just started a Reddit page, so he's one of our 4 moderators on there. So if you want to get hooked up with the Reddit page, you just need to be a registered member on Reddit, and you can reach out to Ethan or myself, lasoundmixer@gmail.com. You can reach out. But there's a Reddit page now for LA Sound Mixers. Ethan, yeah, what's up, buddy?
Oh, good. What's up? How you guys doing? Yeah, we have a Reddit page. I think we started just a couple days ago. Me and a few other people have just been approving everybody. It might take some time, but we do get through everybody at some point. Like, there's 4 of us. But I just had a quick question for Doc. He was mentioning the belt pack had a 10 milliwatt output. Is that a fix, or is it like Shores where it's 10, 20, 30, or whatever the increments are?
I believe so. 10 milliwatt is their max output power. I believe they have 2, 5, and 10. That's off the top of my head, though.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Sweet. Cool.
Yeah.
So
now, when it comes to output power, just as a reminder for those who may be less familiar,
thank you, Doc. That's
and
exactly
digital
what I was going to say. Yeah.
Analog and digital output power are 2 incredibly different things.
Right.
And don't compare any analog output power with any digital output power. You can compare 2 different brands of digital to each other. For example, the Shure Axient output power of the ADX1, I believe, is either 35 or 40 milliwatt. But even when comparing 2 digital output power, there's efficiencies in the modulation, and it's very difficult to compare apples to apples there.
Gotcha. Now I was just wondering, I always like to be able to bring things down if I need to. So I like to have the option. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Doc, for clarifying that, because it's always the question that comes up. I mean, having had, long range experience with, long experience with digital because of going with Zaxcom, in the early days, the output power is, you really can't compare it. People talking about, setting their electrodes at 250 and still having some sort of problem, and, and me being at, maybe 10 milliwatts and, having no problem. It's a totally different animal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, thank you for clarifying that.
So, so what's next?
Now the next few things I'll go through a little more quickly, because they're exciting stuff, but not as much detail to dive into. First up is a new company that I want to really, really highlight here. The name of this company is Radius Windshields. You should be familiar with the founder of Radius Windshields. His name is Simon Davies. His previous company that he founded is Rycote. Now, Rycote was sold off to Vitek and then became Videndum 5, 6, 7 years ago, something along those lines. But the Davies family was very instrumental in running all of Rycote. They have all since left Rycote and have announced their new venture, Radius Windshields. They are going to be doing what they do best and creating new shock mount, windshield, microphone accessories. They promise, they have a new website up. They have social media up. Follow them to see exactly what they're doing. They have some sneak peek into what they're building, but they have not announced any products just yet. They will, I do not believe they will be at NAB. I don't, in an official capacity. Hopefully they're roaming the floor. I'm not sure if that's the case.
Yeah, that's the good thing about NAB is that even if companies don't show up there, their reps are usually there walking around. So you can always, even if they're not on the docket officially, go walk around. You'd be surprised who you meet walking around. It's very cool.
Yeah, so this is an exciting development. And if I can speak frankly, Rycote has had many changes since the acquisition. So this is a welcome addition to the sound manufacturer family. So I'm excited to see what they come up with.
Very cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. Question from Blas.
Yeah, sorry, don't mean to ride the coattails of that, and I'll be brief. But the Rycote, they have the new windscreen Zeppelin that has been out for, I think, for about a year, and I got one, and I think I don't know anything about Radius, but if you guys need a Zeppelin and you don't know what's there, they're not promoting them very much as far as I can tell, but they are actually a very, very solid product. They're lighter. They have a different form factor and they're modular. You can change different sizes, etc. Thank you.
Other things that have been announced recently, our good friends at Denecke released the TCDA. It's exactly what it says. It's a timecode direct amplifier. This is to ensure clean, hardwired timecode signals. Fantastic for studio use, hardwiring cameras. This is, we've gotten to a world where timecode has gotten small and often forgettable. People treat it as a set it and forget it thing. This is a great tool, a great Swiss Army knife to have to ensure those clean, strong signals.
Yeah, this would have been a really great thing to have. I was working on a shoot in fall last year where it was a playback job, but I was sending out timecode to a motion control camera, and it took us a couple of tries to get the timecode there cleanly because I'm trying to use a wireless system to do it. But having this would have been nice because, to have that power to get down a long cable run, and because of course the control people were way on the other side of the stage from me. So that's really cool. That was very cool.
Yeah, in the past, I've used dedicated audio mixers to amplify timecode to send to camera. It is nice to have a dedicated piece of hardware to do this job.
Very cool. Do we know the price point of this?
I do not know it offhand.
That's
I think
probably
it was, I thought I saw it was only like $200 or something. I saw it
okay.
on True's website.
Nice.
I was gonna say, Chris, and everyone, I actually want to get one of these and put on my cart. Just to have multiple timecode outputs, because like I use my my Scorpio cart here as a master timecode source, and there's only one timecode out, and so to me, just being able to distribute, like you said, if you're in studio and they want to hardline cameras for some reason, being able to have an extra output to like feedback into your Dante network for like a remote box, so that your remote box has timecode out of a Dante port and a Dante audio channel, etc. It just seems kind of like a no-brainer for me, so I'm definitely gonna pick one up. But I'm a big Denecke user too, so.
Very cool.
Next up is another product that is now shipping. This is the Zaxcom FP7. They have released their much requested fader panel for the Zaxcom Nova and Nova 2. It adds 7 potentiometers that can control the digital gain or the pots of the Zaxcom. So for those Nova users who may need quick access to different pots rather than using the banking system, or in addition to the banking system of the Nova, it's just a nice way to have more control.
Very cool.
And then the Cloudlifter X, for those who are not familiar with cloud and cloud lifters, these are often used on handheld mics to add a bit of gain, clean gain being the most important thing. This new Cloudlifter X, it can provide up to 36 dB of clean gain. And it actually has switches with an output attenuator on it. It works over phantom power, so you don't need external power to add more gain, more clean gain to your mics. You will see Cloudlifters used a lot in the touring world, a lot in the church world, and it is a really, really nice tool to have in the production sound world as well.
Very cool.
With that said, NAB is coming up in just a couple of weeks. I will be exhibiting with Halter Technical there. We'll have microphone and all of our headphones on display and let people get eyes and ears and hands on everything. But there are also going to be new announcements, not from us, but from other manufacturers that have either let me know privately or through public teases that some new stuff is coming. And it is always exciting. In past years, manufacturers have not been beholden to NAB schedules to release new equipment. And this year, it seems that there's going to be at least a couple of new developments, particularly in the wireless world, directly for us. So I would encourage those of you who can make it out to Las Vegas. If pilot season's got you down and you've got nothing to do, come out to Vegas. I will post a free registration code in the chat so you can get registered up for free. Even if you just think you're going to, you might make it, it's helpful to register ahead of time because they do up it to, I think it's $50 registration for the exhibits. And those who have ever been can attest to just what a great feeling it is and a great networking opportunity and all of that. So if you do make it, make sure to come say hi to me either during the exhibits or at any of the parties afterwards too. And make sure to follow Strictly Sound Gear. I will always post new gear as I find it. I encourage people to post new gear. Try and do it before I get to it, because if you can find new gear before I do, I want to know about it from you. But I just have a lot of time on my hands to search through FCC sites and try and find new stuff myself. But,
and yeah, and if anybody has anybody in the audience has any field reports they want to share from new pieces of gear they've incorporated, please speak up. This is the time to do it. And yeah, Adam, go for it.
So a couple of things I was going to say. First on the Electro DSR4s, because I was an early adopter. I was like a pre-order guy. You can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. So they've been great. They've been really good for me. I've posted a few things online when I've been using them. I've been in a variety of situations. I was on a military base 2 days ago using the digital. It was great. I was on a golf course getting long range while I was literally driving a cart around with a bag on my lap. So like on my setup, I've got a sound devices 888 and 2 DSR4s and an SL2 with Betso bow ties. Haven't tried them in a cart setting yet, only in bag. But I just want to say that so far early reviews on those are really good from me. So a lot of people are really curious, I know, because there's a lot of Lectrosonics users out there and everybody's going, what's the real world impact of those? But so far they've been good, and there's more to come, I think, in terms of the firmware updates and the integration with sound devices, etc. So on that, I see Ethan had a question, or maybe he's got something else to say. So I'll just finish with mine, and then if anyone wants to talk about DSR4s, I'm happy to answer. The other thing I want to say was I've just been seeing tons of really cool 3D printed gadgets popping up on Facebook, and it's like a brave new world for us with that, where individual mixers or users or tinkerers can create their own things. So I got this little device, which is just there's a guy in Europe who's making these, and this just goes on my 8 series bag, and it just allows me extra faders that are programmable. And and there's a lot of stuff like that. Like I bought this, I'll grab it here, this mix face, which a lot of people have been seeing. This is like a $200 thing you can buy on Amazon, and there's just tons of really cool, like cheap.
Can you grab that? Can you grab that first thing that you showed, because I had it on gallery view? There we go. Now we got you full screen. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I've seen, like, the guy released this, and I think his name's Simon Jorgensen. But there's a lot of people on Facebook making these, and then he released about like 5 other versions of it within a couple weeks after that, and they've got 6-channel ones and ones with toggle knobs on it to get to your trim or your channel solos. So especially with the Sound Devices 8 series, there's a lot of mods you can do to it to access your extra channels. So I thought that was cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Ethan.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Adam was talking about, the new Electro digital stuff. I actually had a chance to use the 822s, which I know are a little older, but I'm pretty sure they run on the same kind of modulation, everything, same, what do you want to call this? The same mode, right? As the newer DSR?
Yeah, they do.
Have you noticed anything in terms of, so when I used it this past week, and we had to use it in the older modes, the SRC modes, we were using WM waterproof transmitters, and we were kind of noticing like some range issues. So have you any backwards compatibility stuff? Or maybe we were just using it wrong. I'm on WYSICOM for the most part, so I don't have a lot of experience with the newer Electro stuff. When I was on Electros, I was on like the 200 series and the 400 series. So I was just wondering, like, were we doing something wrong?
What I'll say about that is, as we all know with wireless, your mileage may vary depending on what the setup is. There's so many variables in it, so it's hard to say. But if you talk about a baseline ability for the new Electro Digital to handle the digital hybrid, so far, in my case, it's been great. I have, you know, a lineup of digital hybrid transmitters because I was on SRCs for a long time in my bag. And everything's been fine. Like I said, when I was on this golf course shooting with players, I was getting, you know, a couple 100 yards range easily on digital hybrid. And then in terms of digital, I did a commercial where it was a lactate commercial, and I was out on a ranch, and I just decided I'll just do this on my bag because we have to be trudging through fields and over fences and stuff, and did a little bag cart and used the digital, and it was totally fine as well. So far it's been good. I can't say your situation might have been something weird. You never know.
Very cool. Before
Gotcha.
Cool.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, thank you. I think the digital stuff that we tried it out on, like, it's all been great, and I was really, really impressed with it. So that's why I was a little taken aback, and I was like, huh. But you know, you're right. It could have been like a bunch of things, and like the water could have been a thing too. So thank you.
Sweet. Very cool. And before we get to Blas, I just want to point out something in the chat that Julian posted. It's a question. Does anybody have any hands-on experiences with the Sound Devices Monarch antennas as compared to the SNA 600 or the Betso bow ties? If you have an answer for that, chime in. But for now, we'll go to Blas.
I do have something to say as in regards to these antennas. I'll start with the caveat that I do not have hands-on experience with the Monarch antennas other than a quick demo in shop. But I do want to remind people that all of these antennas, like the bow ties versus the Electro SNA that you ask about, remember that what we're talking about are dipole antennas here in different formats and different form factors. So the Betso bow tie functions as 3 dipoles together. These are great systems for when you have a wide frequency range to utilize. So if you are on a system where you are using the entire spectrum, as much of it as possible, having a wide band antenna is a great thing. However, we know from past experience that having antennas built for your specific range that filter out what you're not using and focusing on the signal and not the noise will always result in better reception. So unless you are just throwing broad strokes at something and hoping to get a signal, you will always have a better signal with an antenna specific for that frequency.
Cool. Thank you. That is good to know. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Let's go to Blas.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something that may not be obvious. I didn't get the name of the person who asked Adam the question about the signals, but I used hybrids for a very long time, and then I started using digital a year ago. And one thing that I think is worth mentioning is if you have experience with the hybrids or with analog signals of any kind, working with digital is inherently different. There are many, many things that I'm not going to get into right now that are different in how you approach it, how you deal with signal strength and other things. And so I think it would be a very good idea to do some research before you decide that it didn't work or that something was wrong with the equipment, because they're just 2 different kinds of work, and it takes you a while to learn how to do it. Thank you.
Very good. Let's see. I want to point out in the chat, they're asking about different events to attend at NAB. And yeah, I would love to give the floor to Jeff just so he can state the yearly tradition of the Ramps party. If you want to just tell us briefly what
Yeah, well, you know, we didn't do the party, obviously, the 2 years that NAB was canceled. The last one we did was actually a pretty big production number and was quite a lot of work, and there were some difficulties. Anyway, so I wasn't really anxious to get back into it, but now that COVID has settled down somewhat and NAB will be happening, we're trying to get it resurrected. And we had some people on our CAS board that wanted to participate, and it looked like we might be able to do it, but we're not going to be doing the Ramps JW Sound Party. And the only party that I'm really aware of would be Rado's party, which he would always do an after party, usually at the Crown and Anchor, which is a rather rowdy beer bar that people that wanted to continue partying after the main party was done would carry on there with Rado. And I know he's going to do that party this year, and that's the only one I know about. We hope next year to actually do a full-on Ramps JW Sound Party again.
I've had a few people reach out over the last couple of weeks. One was Jerry Formicola from Chicago.
Oh yeah, I know Jerry.
Yeah, he was talking about possibly organizing an event, something just very low key. And then so that might happen. I'm not sure. I would say watch the socials for that.
Yeah.
K-Tek has done things in years past.
Well, even in the past, when we first did the Ramps Party, when Eric Tolain organized it all, almost 30 years ago. Unfortunately, Eric has passed away, which kind of put a damper on the whole thing also. But I felt a real responsibility to continue the party. The only reason JW Sound got associated with it is when Ramps crashed and burned, and almost everyone that was on Ramps moved over to the site that I started, primarily because I wanted some place for us to continue all the good stuff that was happening on Ramps when there was good stuff happening on Ramps, But even back then, there were lots of other little side parties. I know we always had to steer clear of Lectro was always doing a party on the Monday, which I went to, and various other organizations. But Tuesday became the day that we always did the Ramps party. But now I think Rado's party is going to be on Monday, and our party would have been on Monday also, just because NAB has changed their schedule.
Yeah, the whole schedule shifted a day earlier, right?
Yeah, they start on Sunday, so it's Sunday through Wednesday instead of Monday through Thursday.
So so now Monday would be the traditional day.
And hopefully people will anybody that's doing any parties, they'll post stuff on the social media, and because you have to remember, in the beginning of the Ramps party, we didn't really have any social media. We had Ramps, which was the only sort of online get together.
Yeah, that
was, so.
All right, I'll throw a party.
That's it.
So,
but cool, yeah. But I would say keep an eye out for Jerry Formicola, maybe K-Tek, and then and then Lectro. I think they have their gathering on the Monday, which is interesting. It's always nice. I went to it. I guess the last time we had it, 2019, maybe.
Well, Lectro was always very helpful with the Ramps party. Also, in several years. I know there was a couple of years when we didn't actually make our guarantee, and I had to dip into my pocket, and Eric Tolain and Larry Fisher came up with some cash at the last minute. So, and they used to do the name tags and various things. So they were very supportive. Yeah,
it's and being on the hook for a potential tab at the end of the night, that's always a risk. I know I've shared that risk here in LA with Steve Morantz and Devendra Cleary.
Every event that you do, Chris, I'm wondering how you. That's why I always try and contribute to your events, even if I'm not there, because I know that it's a big deal to do these things. So
and I appreciate it, and it's that's what I love about having Steve and Devendra there to just help make sense of everything, and if there's a guarantee that needs to happen. Some places are like you can have the space, but you got to guarantee $3,000 in sales, and I'm just like, okay, and there's a risk there. So, but it's always worked out, and I thank you for your contribution for sure. Doc, does that wrap it up? Is there anything else?
That's all from my report. although I will add, if anybody is going to NAB, reach out to me. So let's get together. Let's link up.
Very cool, Doc. With Strictly Sound Gear, the Facebook group, check it out. And also Halter Technical, Microphone, and the scene monitors. Some really great stuff going on. Thank you, Doc. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Chris,
Thanks.
Xenia
Thanks
showed
a lot.
up.
Yeah, Xenia.
There she is. There's that smiling face.
This is gonna be you know, whenever Xenia can pop in and give us her update, we're so happy. Xenia, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing fine. I can actually chime in at any point. You can discuss other topics and then I'll chime in because I just got a new request and I'm thinking about how we can maybe pump up our initiative. So yeah, just continue and wherever it's comfortable, I'll just talk about it.
Yeah, we're just now at the bumper point where we're going to start our main topic. So, I mean, now would be a good time, but if you want to wait for a little while and get yourself acclimated, that's fine.
Well, I recently got acquainted with a female paramedic who is in the group called Female, how is it translated? Female Veterans Movement. So there's a lot of actually female veterans, and some of them are active paramedics. So they have requests too. And yeah, radios are expensive as always. And I just think actually Peter Schneider from Gotham Sound already invited me to participate in NAB, in online version, some kind of it. But I'm still brainstorming how we can like open like fundraiser just for this cause. So if anyone has ideas maybe related to the events that you're planning or something, then just yeah, you can tell me here or contact me. And yeah, it's like $10,000, $20,000. I'm sorry, here's my cat.
Awesome.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, this might feel like a bit of a left turn if you're not familiar with the story, but Xenia is a very dear friend of ours that we met during the COVID chats. She's a production sound mixer who lives in Kyiv, Ukraine, which of course their world was turned upside down in February of last year with the invasion from Russia. She had every opportunity to go work with Mac Ruth and other people and be in a safer place and work on really amazing big shows, but she said no. She decided to stay there in Ukraine, help organize. She's still working as a production sound mixer. She's been spearheaded this initiative called Safe and Sound Ukraine, and they're raising money for buying encrypted walkies for first responders there in the war zones. So they're very expensive walkies, $500 to $1,000 a piece. And she's been doing the legwork, raising the money, and finding these walkies, buying them, getting them into the country. And I just admire her greatly. So just so you know, I mean, she has a standing invitation to show up at any one of our video chats, just so we can see her, see how she's doing, and that's what this update is.
I'm interested in all the topics that we're discussing here, and also.
You were at every chat we had during COVID. That's where we got to know you. So that, So we're just glad you're still at it. You still have that light in your eyes, and I think it's great. And we're standing by to help you and support you. But yeah,
she's still working as a production sound mixer in the middle of war. I mean,
yes, I do.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is really important and this is interesting. So it's important on so many levels. We make films for like big festivals sometimes, and sometimes we do just films for television or video projects. So it's just important for people to know the truth, especially in the conditions where Russian propaganda is so active. And people really sometimes get, lured into potentially believable information. Personally, for me, it isn't, but well, somehow people do. And yeah, so I love to have opportunity to participate in this, but also yeah, I have really I have felt that American sound communities, including LA sound mixers, really you're dear friends of mine now, and now that I have new requests, I will be glad to get maybe ideas from you or discuss somehow how we can help some more, because it's an ongoing need. It's like, yeah, of course, governments help us, but war is incredibly expensive thing. So it's just, you can get some help and then it just gets burned, all of it, you know? And then you just have to start from the 0 point. That's why we just do it all the time.
Yeah, and you know, war is expensive, but also having to defend your homeland is expensive. You know, it's not something that you wanted to do. It was something that was dropped at your doorstep that you have to deal with. And it's, you know, yeah, and we work in production. We work in these creative entities that just take up a vast amount of resources, but this is 10 times worse, you know, because not only is it monetary and it's you know, things like water and energy, but it's lives too. So it's just a great cost on so many levels. But we're so glad that you're still there, and you're you know, I'm looking forward to whatever new steps you want to take with Safe and Sound Ukraine. We had a lot of great supporters in the first round. I think we raised almost 100 and how much?
No, like $135,000 at the moment. Yeah, so yeah, it just would be nice. I just have this memories about how the CAS awards last year were like, it was like a couple of days before the CAS awards, and we were like, let's do it, let's make those flyers. So we designed everything. Tino helped to assemble that flyer. We had that photo printed in front of ruined building, and we just spoke to Carol, and she was really quite great to just let us do it at the event. That's not actually that political. So yeah, all the events helped a lot.
Yeah, but we had Gotham Sound support, Lectrosonics, K-Tek was a huge part of it. And there's so many other companies that I can't remember off the top.
Had a video, like how do you call it? Like webinar with sound girls.
Yes.
And yeah, many memories.
Yeah,
so it's been nice to repeat.
Very good. Yeah, as the next wave of that develops, keep me posted on it, and we'll definitely do what we can to help. Let's go to Ethan. Ethan, you have a question?
Yeah. So by the way, hi Xenia. I don't think we've met. This is one of my first Zoom chats I've joined you guys on. But you were talking about needing donations. Did I hear that correct?
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
You were talking about donations for another round for Safe and Sound.
Yes.
Correct. I'm just gonna throw this idea out there because I've actually been working on this for a while, but on my outside of sound, I make a lot of coffee. I'm like really into coffee, and I've been planning this coffee pop-up for a while, where I just make coffee for a bunch of people and they donate. And I don't have a venue, so like we can talk about this more later, but if like any of like the sound people here in LA or whatever has some ideas, I could do my pop-up and then I could have the donations go towards that instead of just like whatever. But yeah, if that's something that like interests anybody, you guys can DM me. I would love to do it at one of like the retailers. Like I would just need a space, but that's just something I've been like brewing on for like the past 2-3 months. So yeah, let me know what you guys think.
Brewing on it. That's awesome.
Ethan, my man.
Yes. No, we have this coffee kickoff at the beginning of every year, and so now that now that you've outed yourself as being a coffee brewer, we might have to come up with some more gatherings around what you can do. So that's really awesome. And yes, I'll be happy to help coordinate with Xenia anything we can do to help raise money for that, which will be really cool.
I mean, I'd love to talk about it more some other time. I don't want to take up too much of this, but I would provide everything, being machines, everything. People just need to show up.
Sweet.
And donate.
Sweet. Well, that's one thing we do well is put on events. So we can definitely make that happen. Xenia, what do you think about that? That's pretty cool.
Oh, of course, I entirely support that. Yeah, I'll do whatever it needs.
Very good. Very well. Thank you so much for the update. I appreciate it. Please feel free to chime in on any other part of the chat. You're always welcome. We have people representing regions from around the world, and you're our Kyiv person. So
yeah. So if there are any updates, I can just post it on the Facebook group.
Okay.
If there's a request for like participation of some kind, I'll just post it, and I'll be glad for any ideas, even if you don't want to participate directly in this. If you have some ideas of maybe some potential supporters among businesses that we haven't tapped into at the moment, I'll be grateful for anything. And thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you. All right. So with that, so good to see you, Xenia. With that,
Likewise.
We'll move on to our main topic, which is going to be there's 4 parts of it. It's keeping your business organized, taxes, and then finding jobs. How do you actually find the work? I know a lot of new people coming in are like, how, especially adapting to a freelance life. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's very project to project. So how do you find your jobs? And then the last subtopic is organizing your network. So I'd love to, if it's okay, to start with Blas, who's actually has a course on Video Mantis about organizing your business. Blas, can you tell us about that course and what are some of the key things we need to do if we're just getting started?
Thank you, Chris. The Video Mantis course is I think it's 6 hours, and it's basically kind of like a crash course in how to manage your profession as a business. I will just touch on a couple of basic things. I don't know if you want to handle this as a Q&A or whatever, but I'll just touch on.
People can, if people want to, they can raise their hand and chime in. Like, I'll keep an eye on it for you.
Thank you. I think the most important thing is to, I know this sounds a little, and I posted this on Facebook a couple of years ago, and I had really interesting feedback, most of it positive, but it was interesting. And what I told them was, because one of the things that we're kind of constantly talking about is to keep our rates up, to not lower the rates, to not give an excuse to producers to offer all-in, offensive rates. And what I told them, and I know it sounds really horrible, especially if you're starting out, but what I told them was, if you need to do Lyft or work part-time at Starbucks to kind of pay your bills so that you don't have to accept shitty paying jobs, do it. And of course, everybody says, well, I want my career, I want my thing. The thing is, show business attracts a lot of people who just want to be there. And the people who have the money, who are going to hire us and pay us for the money, they know that every person that says no to them, or that says no to that amount, there's 3 or 4 people who are willing to do it for any amount, because it's a business that attracts that kind of thing. That applies to directors, DPs, and mostly talent and actors. But we have to remember that we are crafty people. I consider myself a filmmaker. I think that I have much more to contribute to a narrative production than just somebody who's just simply moving the faders around. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I am not above the line, in that I am somebody who is basically paying my bills. That's why we don't have resumes. That's why we have resumes. We don't have reels. I mean, once I've done my work on the film, it's going to go through so many transformations that there's no benefit to me to tell people, well, I worked on this film, I did that. My input is not as prominent. And so the first thing we have to understand is that this is a craft and a profession, and I have to feed my family. And if I have to feed my family, that means I have to be discerning about the kind of jobs that I take. The second step is to always separate my labor from the equipment. The equipment is something that can be owned by me. It can be owned by my friend. It can be owned by a rental house, and it has a certain value. And it has nothing to do with how much experience I have in the business. And so when I have people, I have young people that, you know, I'm kind of mentoring a couple of people. And so I tell them, even if you feel that you cannot command $800 a day for your labor, let's say you think in your head that you're only worth, let's say, $300 a day, whether that's true or not, the equipment is there. And it could be that I rented you some Comtex for you to go do the job. So you have to pay them. They have to be amortized. They have to be repaired. They have to be maintained, all that stuff. And so the other part of that is that, let's say something changes on the job, and let's say they suddenly need more stuff. Well, they have a precedent in their head that they paid for the gear a certain amount. So it's going to be much easier for you to say, well, now we have, you requested 3 more, Comtex or whatever. We normally charge, $20 a day or $25 a day for those. How do you want to handle it? It's much easier to do that than if they think that they, so to speak, bought you for a whole day. Also, if there's overtime, the overtime will apply only to your labor, not to the equipment. So these are reasons that make perfect sense why you want to separate things. Also, if something breaks, and let's say the recorder breaks, and you have to go out and rent another recorder from somebody, well, you're going to have to pay somebody something for that recorder unless you had a spare. If you're starting out, very likely you don't have a spare. There's another reason why there has to be a definite dollar amount that is commensurable with what's paid, for that item in that market that you live in, because then you can cover that in case you have to replace it or fix it or something goes wrong.
Right.
Jeff, go ahead if you want to.
No, I just wanted to echo what Blas is saying about separating one's labor from the equipment and treating the equipment just the same way a rental house or any other business. And there's a component to that that's so important, because you want to be valued as a human being, independent of any particular piece of gear that you may or may not show up with. I would love to hear from Lauren, because I know that she's run the full range of having to, present yourself as, here I am, give me $100 and I'll get it all done somehow, but being extremely thoughtful and very vigilant in trying to keep, whatever equipment that you have separate from your value as a human being. And the whole thing about lowballing jobs also, because, Lauren has been in a situation where, she hasn't had a career that's been so long and so well established yet, but certainly on the upswing. And I just admire that approach.
Yeah, let's hear from Lauren. Love to hear from her.
Hello. So first, I was saying in the chat that I've worked at Amazon for 3 years on the side. First, it started out as like a panic during the pandemic when there was no sound jobs, and I'd work more hours then. But now I work maybe 4 or 5 hours a week, sometimes 10. And really, it's at first it was to help pay my student loans, but I got those paid off last year. So now it's like a 401k machine. 50% goes into my 401k, and the rest is fun money. And it kind of just like gives me a reason to wake up in the morning sometimes when I don't have a sound job. Like yesterday, I didn't do anything all day, and I just like sat on the couch doing nothing. But today I woke up at 4 a.m. to go to Amazon, worked there for 5 hours, and then got my grocery shopping done. Now I'm doing this. And like, I feel like just sometimes just working keeps your mind active and you're able to do a bunch of stuff. As far as negotiating goes, I mean, I was lucky to learn pretty early on from my peers that what I should be charging. And it was really scary to ask for those numbers at first. But basically, at the end of the day, it's like you could do the job or you can't. And if you can do it, you should charge appropriately for it. If you still need some practice with some lower pressure stuff, you can still do student films, low budget indie short films. But I still tell the indie producers a lot of times they have 200-300 a day, and they're asking for all this equipment. And I'm like, well, I actually do know some beginners I can send you, but they just have a recorder and a boom, and you're just gonna have to deal with that. And they're like, no, we need lavs. And I'm like, then you can rent them for them, because I do think that their time is worth at least 300, let alone, they have to rent gear. Like if they have to rent it from their friends, and how are they going to be able to afford $2,000 a channel or more for, like, if they are only working for $300 a day, because that's barely paying their bills. Probably not even for a lot of people if they have kids and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. I've said it in the past where it's a lot of times when you're negotiating, it's not about what you think you're worth. It's about what you are worth to them, what your talent is worth to them. That's the number to find, because a lot of people getting started will underprice themselves because they feel like maybe they're not qualified to charge more. It's like, no, it's not about what...
Imposter syndrome is real, but there's also the other end of the spectrum of newer people hearing us talk about this and then thinking that they can do like these crazy jobs from the start. And it's like, whoa, slow down, like get some experience under your belt. Try to maybe work as a boom op or an A2 for somebody else, which I know is hard because a lot of union jobs have boom ops and thirds, but when you're non-union, it's really hard to find those jobs. Yeah, but it's still a good idea. Just like surround yourself by people, come to Zoom meetings like this, go to in-person meetups, talk on the Facebook groups, just learn as much as you can. And that's just don't take anything you're not ready for.
Yeah, that's part of building your network. That's part of building your inner circle of people that help support you. You learn from them, they learn from you. And and I remember when I first started, it was a string of student films, but I felt like I needed, and I always got paid for them, but I felt like I needed shoot situations that were less formally run, that were forgiving in nature. And I remember the first time I worked on a corporate and made $900 in labor. And I was so nervous because the last thing I wanted was that big bright light shining on me being the one person who didn't quite know how to figure this situation out. That's scary. But yeah, no, thank you. That's really, really great input. Really great input.
Thank you, Lauren. Also, I want to say one more thing about what Lauren said about doing smaller jobs and not jumping in. You have to understand that you have a responsibility with the project. If you're not ready for the job, I see a lot of times people on Facebook asking questions that are way beyond something that you can ask on Facebook. It's okay that you forgot something on a manual, or it's a last minute thing and you can't figure out how to change a setting or something. But don't come on Facebook saying, oh, how do you do a timecode playback for a music video?
Yeah, after you already accepted the job.
I mean, how can you accept a job like that? I mean, it's not even about whether you're shameless or not, and you are shameless. There is a project that needs a sound mixer who knows that, and they need the product. I mean, you're screwing up the whole product for a big company.
And what you do in this situation, which is something that I just ran into last month, was I'm like, well, I don't know how to do video playback, or timecode playback for music videos, but I have a friend who does. So it's like, okay, let me friend. And then, hey, can I come on the job and maybe you like throw me $100 to help you lift stuff or 100%. Buy me dinner or something, and then I can learn on the job from you. And 100%. Then this way you're both growing your network and helping build your career, as well as learning something new, but you're not embarrassing yourself and not like completely sabotaging their product that they're trusting you to do.
That's perfect. That's
nice. Can we go to Kyle?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of slightly pivot and just talk about one conversation that I often have in the beginning is about saving and about how it's important to properly set yourself up to be able to handle the time when you're down, so that you can take the right job for you and not take a job because you have to, because you need the money. So it's always super important that sometimes it's nice to buy that new piece of gear, but if you're not quite ready financially wise, then sometimes it's better to rent a few more times, or set yourself up with another sound mixer friend that you can rent or borrow from, in order to keep the funds in the bank a little bit better, that allow you to pick and choose your projects to a better degree.
100%. I actually, one example of that, and I talk to colleagues a lot about this, I didn't have earwigs ever, because that's something that I was using maybe a handful of times a year, and I just had no interest. I had a couple of friends who had earwigs, and I knew who to call and everything. And then I did a show last year which was earwigs every day, all day, and I just did the math. It was pretty simple, you know. I obviously it would the job would pay for it. Also, if you want to upgrade, I have a bag with a 633. I'm sure the 883 is absolutely amazing, but the 633 does exactly what I need. And when I have a bag job, I just don't need more than what that does. If it's a bigger job, I have some other gear that I can throw on a Zuka cart or whatever. But I just in my head, I don't have this notion that, oh, I have to get the newer one because the new. Of course, I'm sure it's amazing, but we have to know whether the job will pay for it or not. And if I do a job that will require, let's say, certain characteristics that the 883 is perfect for or whatever, and I know that it's going to be, 15 weeks of that or whatever it is, I'll go, okay, I'll do the math. It makes perfect sense. I'm buying it. Otherwise, I'm not buying anything new just because of one day where I can have the shiny thing.
Yeah, and stop putting gear on credit cards and loans unless you're guaranteed that you're getting money. But even if you have a job booked, it's not 100% until it happens.
Yeah, it's not real.
Sometimes you do it and then it's not 100% until you get paid.
Right. It's not real until it's real. And yeah, then when the check clears, for sure. Let's go to Carlos.
Sorry, I mute myself. Yeah, one of the things that I've actually been doing, I've become an adjunct professor and I'm teaching sound for film and television. But I don't know if any of you guys have been thought about going a little bit of a teaching route. It's a part-time thing, so I only teach like 1 day a week and it's perfectly fine. But I was curious because I think, Chris, you talked about this in one of the previous sessions. It was how people charge in the different tiers. You're always going to have someone in like the A tier who's going to always charge the right amount, then kind of B tier.
Yeah, that was
Cujo. Cujo. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if it was like who it was, but but yeah, that's something that I've started to see also in our market. Like me and the other mixer who are here, we stick to the ABs, like the highs and mids a little bit, but then we have one friend who we're kind of mentoring, but we keep telling him, hey, don't accept the first offer. Like there's only a few of us here, you can do better. Even it's even as simple as just negotiating a hotel room. Even we've told him, like, yeah, the shoot's an hour away, but you should still negotiate a hotel room because you're not going to be going back and forth. You'll die. It's 26 days. But he somehow just doesn't have the confidence to do that. And I'm not sure what kind of advice, like what advice would you guys?
I have perfect advice for that, Carlos. The advice I have, and it doesn't come up all the time, but what I tell people, and I think I mentioned that in the Video Mantis thing, if I'm never booked. When people call me, I'm always available, always. It doesn't matter what's going on, unless I know that I'm on a show that's going to be, for 5 months or whatever. But if somebody calls me, tells me, are you free on Wednesday? I pretend I'm looking and I just say yes. The reason I do that is because if I am booked on another job, I can negotiate on this job without any pressure. Let's say Wednesday, I'm free. They call me about Wednesday. I go, okay, tell me about the job, blah, 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 blah. And I start negotiating. And I negotiate as hard as I can because I already have another job. Now, first of all, that other job may get canceled as well. That happens all the time. So now I have, an opportunity to have another job. If I book it, I may book it at a better rate than the other job. And so I now have a better job than the one I already had on Wednesday. If they say no, I lose nothing. I already had a job.
Wait, so you're doing what producers do to us?
Absolutely, 100%. And so I am basically practicing on how it is without the pressure of losing it. I know this doesn't happen all the time, although there are times when it's like in Spanish we say vacas viejas y vacas flacas. We have the times when it's it doesn't if it doesn't rain, rain or
if only I knew Spanish.
No, it's like if it's raining, when it rains, it pours. When it
rains, it pours.
So I'm never booked, but then when I'm booked, it's the same week. Suddenly there's 5 jobs. I love those times. Honestly, I do, because I'm practicing my negotiating skills. That's the only advice I can offer.
Nice. Yeah, I would often do that where I would have as many conversations as possible. I would respond to a lot of ads, even the ones in the early days, even the ones that said no pay. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have the conversation. I'm going to call them, meet them, talk to them. And of course, now everything's over text now, so it's different. But back then, if I could get them on the phone, there was a conversation to be had that maybe only took 5 or 10 minutes of my time, but I got to go through the drill of the questions to ask, learning about what kind of producer they were, you know, all the different skills that we use to break down who that is on the other end and what we can get out of that project and if it works or not. So yeah, but I love your approach, Blas. That's really cool. That's really cool. Let's go to Adam. You know, Adam, you're a co-mod. You don't necessarily need to raise your hand.
I want to wait my turn. I want to say a couple things. First of all, a total aside, but to the power of social media and our sound community, Carlos, you were speaking. I don't know if you remember, but I rented equipment from you. I was working at the Blue Origin rocket launches.
Oh yeah.
I was hired to go out there and follow Jeff Bezos and William Shatner around when they come out of their space capsule in the desert. But the night before, they said, hey, Adam, Jeff is going on all the astronauts are going on Good Morning America and the Today Show and all these things tomorrow. And I don't know why. They didn't make a plan for how they were going to mix that. And they said, can you mix it? Can you mix the 5-person, live hit remote? We've got a TV truck. But anyway, I hadn't brought, sure, yeah, I've got all that gear, but it's not here because that wasn't even what I was hired for. And so I was able to hit up freelance sound mixers on Facebook, say, who's in El Paso because I'm 3 hours from there and I need gear immediately. And within, 15 minutes, someone said Carlos. I sent him a text. Within 2 hours, there was a PA at his house picking up a package of gear. And I was able to make this job happen for them, just by the skin of my teeth, just, maxed out on channels because I just had a bag out there. I was doing basically follow work. So that's the power of these kind of communities. And it makes me really confident, especially LA sound mixers, that if I ever have any issues in LA or basically anywhere in the world, I could have a solution from a peer probably within a day or faster. And I know, if I ever need anything, I can, and I see it all the time on LA sound mixers, people are like, I need this thing. I need it now. I need someone to do a pickup. So it's really cool. Kudos to everyone here. The thing I raised my hand for was to say, this is, from a little bit earlier, but don't accept jobs that you cannot deliver on, because you've heard the quote before, I'm sure, but a reputation takes a lifetime to build. It takes 5 minutes to destroy. And you are your reputation in this business. And at least for me, I want my reputation to be, if you hire him, the job's never going to be blown. We're never going to blow the job. It's never going to be, it was a complete disaster. There was no sound. Everything, there's always, I've been doing this for 20 years and I've never had one that I've just exploded. So the reason for that is I say no. Like I say, when I get asked for certain things, even after more than 20 years, I say, I'm sorry, that's not exactly what I do, but I know the person, or I can facilitate. We can bring on another person, bring on, well, for instance, like I don't do a lot of live music. I get asked for that. And so I say, I'm happy to facilitate kind of be the department head, but I want to bring on a music mixer and I can take all the stems and I can take all the channels and everything, but I'm not the one who's going to go mic up the drums kit and stuff, because I don't do that. I just have found that if you say yes to the wrong thing, you're putting yourself in a bad situation. So be willing to be humble if you don't know what it is. Now, the counterpoint to that is if it's something that you can do, but it's just a little more challenging, it's a new challenge, accept it and grow and really do the homework. For instance, my first Toyota commercial, I was hired for it. Director that I knew well, had worked with a lot, and he said, we've got to record all these brand new Toyota cars for this series of spots. I hadn't done a lot of car stuff, and I was confident enough that I could make it work. But what I did was I literally got on Google and Facebook and JW Sound, and I read every single article there was about recording cars, and I brought 10 times as many mics as I needed, and I tried them all, and it worked out. And then I posted it, and then pretty soon everyone is going, someone else was asking about car work, and they go, well, ask Adam Young, he knows how to do cars. And I was going, yeah, okay.
Now you're that person.
Yeah.
Which, there's worse things to be, but I think in the end, people will appreciate the honesty. If they start listing out what you need and you feel like, I don't know if I can cover all this. Yeah. You either ask for the personnel to cover it, or Or I think, yeah, you're right. They'll appreciate the honesty, and then you being able to help them find somebody who's really specializes in that. I remember I got called for a Mark Maron comedy special, and they were like, "Now it was very important. We really need a good comm system." And I'm like, Blas, I need a comms person. And Blas came in and just, took a system from scratch, programmed it, got it all out there. But yeah, that was one of those things where if you I told him, I was like, I can't do it, but I know somebody who can. And Blas came and knocked it out of the park. So
it's good to specialize in this business. It's really good to be like a specific, instead of just a Swiss Army knife, it's good to have a little bit of a specialization where you can build your reputation on this person does world-class work in that field. And like, I'm not going to take a job as a truck A1. I work on shows where I work with the truck A1, but I'm not going to go sit in the truck and that's not my wheelhouse. And so it's good to just pass that on. And you make friends who will pass that work back to you when something comes up that's good for you.
Nice. Blas, if it's okay, can we go on to Robert? Good. Yeah. Robert, what's up?
Hey, everybody. I love this conversation. I kind of want to, I think, jump off a little bit of what Blas was saying earlier, kind of about like when you're in the negotiating process. I think it's a great text and everything is great, but there's, I think, nothing better than hopping on a phone call with someone that wants to hire you. So what I'll do oftentimes is say I get a text message or an email and in their signature is a phone number. And if I'm around at that exact moment, I will call them immediately. I don't respond to the email. I just call that number. And I'd say if you're quick enough for me, 2 out of 3 times I'll get through to them. And it's very handy because then they can hear my voice and I'm not just text behind a screen, and I can ingratiate myself with them. And I can also learn much faster what the job is going to be because I've learned finding out the scope on the phone has helped me in terms of quoting for things. Like I've had times where people are saying, oh, we're going to be filming in an office building. So if you think office building, you're going to think corporate shoot. But then they're like, oh, well, actually, it's a commercial. So for commercial prices, and this is I guess a side note, on the non-union side, I quote union scale or LA union scale roughly for non-union commercials. So I don't do the prevailing non-union like full rate, I guess you could say, for everything else basically. So, but I digress. But finding out those details can help you in terms of not underquoting yourself from the start. And you can then also hash out all those things. If you talk about gear and say their gear numbers are low, you can then on the phone, I like to take gear away. So if say they don't have enough money for a basic package, but they have enough for just a boom and a mixer, I'll tell them, all right, you have $350, but you want a boom mixer, 2 wires. It's only a single person interview. Let's remove the lavs. That 350 number will now work perfectly with this. And then sometimes they'll say, great. And other times we'll dance around a little bit, but there's a bunch of ways you can do on the phone that you can't really do as fast and efficiently as over email. So just figured I'd mention.
Nice. Yeah, that's very good. Thank you so much. Caleb.
I am unmuted. Hey, Robert, it's good to see you, man. And I applaud the fact that someone of your generation prefers to speak on the phone than use text. I think that's absolutely great, and I totally agree with what you're saying. Blas, question for you about your negotiating techniques by being always available. How do you get out of the job you don't want to take when you have multiple offers, especially if that job came first?
Well, I am blessed with having colleagues and friends such as yourself, and Sabi and other people in my immediate circle. And as a matter of fact, most of us who are in LASM and who are local here, we kind of know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And it's not like I'm getting out of a job that I don't want. I mean, it sounds kind of cold the way you describe it. But basically, I know that that maybe you might not be available, that you might be available next week or you're not, and then I'll kind of feel it out because we'll talk to each other. So I know that at least one or two of my colleagues might be free on that day. So I'll just play along. Now, I know it's nerve-wracking, especially, and by the way, if it's a well-known client with whom I actually have a relationship, then that's the client. That's the client that I'm going to favor in every way. But I'm talking about cases in which I have, you and I both do often these documentary interviews that it's 1 day, 2 days. I think most of us have plenty of work of that kind.
Yeah.
And so what I know is that typically I got a recommendation from somebody that I may or may not know. So I don't really have anything invested in either of the two jobs that you are referring to. And so I will simply negotiate well or badly or whatever, and I'll just call the other person. And it could be that the job that pays better is maybe better suited to you. And I know you're free, and I'll just go, you know what? I got you a super job that pays very well. I'll keep my other job, everybody happy. Because the other thing when you're recommending clients, and this piggybacks on what Adam and Lauren mentioned earlier, is the ultimate thing is the client. The reason this relationship exists is because the client needs something. I do want to get paid. I do want to get paid well. I don't want to be yelled at. I want to have something better than pizza for lunch. All of those things are true, but definitely we are here because the client needs something. And the client, everything starts with the client. That doesn't mean I'm a servile little slave that says, oh, yes, whatever you want, Mr. Client. That's not what it is. It's just that the client is the one who needs something. I need money. But if the client didn't need something, I wouldn't be part of the conversation. So we have to have a service attitude. And in the service attitude comes me being experienced, me being knowledgeable, me being sober, me being clean and pleasant to work with. All of those things come into it. But also, we all know each other's strengths and weaknesses. We know, you and I know each other, and Sabi and Chris and Adam and Charlie Mead, with whom we often spend time together and bounce jobs to each other. So, what's that?
Love Charlie.
Yeah. So so I may think, wow, this job is really perfectly suited for one of these guys or the other guy. So that has to do with whether the client is averting disaster for the client. It's all to do always about the responsibility for the client. They're the ones who are putting out, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we need to make sure that that investment is handled properly.
Very good. I want to point out that Tyler posted in the chat. Everybody look at the chat. Tyler posted Tyler Faison from Dallas. Hey, what's up, Tyler?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Posted a nice little checklist of questions to ask when you're talking to a producer. That's a really cool thing. Definitely want to copy and paste that. And
I forgot one more thing, Chris. Sorry for interrupting. Thanks, Tyler, for that.
The
other thing about negotiating dollar amounts is that you can always come down. Always you can come down. You cannot come up. If you say 300 and they go yes, you're done. But if you Robert, I think, was talking about union rates. If you if you are, I'm laughing at Tim's chat. Sorry about that. If you are quoting union rates, commercial rates, whatever the number is, just go up there. And I had a really interesting conversation with Dan Kelly the other day, because he was called last minute for a list big project. They needed somebody to do some playback for earwigs. It was some kind of a call and repeat A-list client. He charged them, I think it was $1,250 for 10 hours. And then for the gear, he was going to be flown out and all that stuff. He ended up spending 4 days there. He didn't do anything. They paid him for everything. It ended up not using the earwigs. It didn't work out. There was whatever. And then he's going to go back in a month. And I said, wow, how did you get away with it? He says, I just went for the moon because they need me. Somebody said that I'm the guy. And remember that as well. If somebody says, like Chris just mentioned me doing the comms, which I know a little bit about. I'm not really the comms guy, but I was obviously able to help Chris with Mark Maron. But if you get a call and the guy on the other line or the woman on the other line says, oh, I hear you're the guy with the X, whatever. You go, I'm the guy. Well, we need you, in a week or in 3 days. You are now holding the pan by the handle. And that doesn't mean that you're going to make a killing, or that doesn't mean that you're going to be disrespectful, but it means that you are in a position where you can now name your price. And you have to recognize those moments and use them. But in any case, whatever the negotiation result is, just aim for the moon, because you can always come down for that. Don't be afraid that they will be scared. And you can word it in such a way. For example, I usually, if it's an open-ended thing and I don't know what's going on, I'll tell them, well, I usually charge this much, but tell me what the budget is, and we'll see what happens. That doesn't mean that you suddenly have acquiesced to them. You gave them a number, and if that number is there, they'll go, okay, it's perfect. And I've had plenty of times when I thought they might get scared, and they just said, okay, perfect, everybody happy. I will tell you a quick anecdote. I replaced Sabi on a job. This was 8 years ago, and it was 3 days for a BlackBerry thing with a big time music person, and it was like 3 or 4 days or something. And he couldn't do the first day, so he called me to do it. And he said, "Yeah, so it's just basically it's in a bag with one camera. There could be like an interview, but basically a couple of contacts." And it's $700 a day. And I said, sure, I'll do it. Great, no problem. And so we finished the day. We didn't do shit because the talent was always in the studio. We couldn't record sound in the studio. And so there was a literally super quick, like 5-minute sit down with them, and we were done. And so the producer came to me at the end of that, and she said, oh, so I guess I'll just cut you a check now, because Sabi is coming tomorrow, and so it's your. I'm like, oh, okay. She said, so yeah, just to confirm, so it's 700 for you and 700 for the gear, right? And I said, absolutely, 100%. That's exactly what it is. You got that right. And of course, I called Sabi right away so that he knew as well what the numbers were. And so you always remember, some clients want to buy a Hyundai, but some clients are ready to pay for a Mercedes. The main job is to recognize which of those two it is.
Yeah, very good, very good. Let's go to Adam.
Yeah, just echoing what Blas said. That happens a lot, and you're better served all the time by being a premium option, and by quoting high rates and then seeing what they say. If they get scared away by just regular good sound mixer rates, then they probably don't want to hire a good sound mixer, and you might not even want to do that job at all. If they're so scared that they don't even give you a counter offer and they just disappear, they're not a serious client. So just let them go. I had to learn how to do that for a long time. It took a long time to learn that. But when clients, because people will be like, hi, we got your info from so-and-so, and there's a shoot on this day. What's your rate? I'm sure all of you get this text all the time, and you say, well, what's the job? Because the rates can vary greatly, and what are you trying to do, and et cetera, et cetera. Tyler had put a great list in the chat of the things you want to ask when you're qualifying a job, and you guys should look at that, because you do want to know what their crew size is. Is there 100 people on set? Are there 3 people on set? Who's the talent? How many cameras are there? Is it 5 RE mini LF packages, and like there's a techno crane? Because this tells you, oh yeah, are you renting Red Studios, the entire lot? Okay, now we know. So now just bill your full rates, and don't even think about it. And they'll actually respect you more usually. And I've had ones where the producers will say like, well, they had this in the budget for gear, but I'm sure that number needs to go up, right? And it's already a large number, and you're like, it does. Yes, it does. I just say to clients, well, because there's a lot of different kinds of work, and we've talked about this on other chats, but there's commercial rates, there's feature rates, there's equipment rates, there's different kind of labor things. I like to just educate clients all the time now. I just say, well, here's like they say, what's your rate? What's your labor rate? And I'll just say, well, for this kind of non-union interview work, this might be the number. But I'll also say, if you're trying to get into commercial work or whatever, I'll tell them what the union commercial Y1 rate is, which like right now is, I think, 1,030 for 10 in LA. So I want them to know like the range of sound mixer labor. So they don't have in their mind, like a sound mixer works for whatever they think, $500 a day. And that's their idea of sound. I want them to know like that's the labor, and then equipment can be in all of these ranges. It can be $400 for the most simple thing. It can be $2,000 for like a huge setup or whatever. So I think that's really important that you continue to educate all producers, because they will start to put that in their budgets. And I've had many producers who I met early in my career, and I was working for nothing. I didn't know any better. And I am still working for at full rates, current day full rates, and they're happy to pay that for you. The other thing I want to say, which Blas mentioned, you want to become a must hire. That's what you really want to do, because we have a section in this, Chris, in our outline, which is how do you get work? One of the top things that you want to be is the person that is requested from the above the line and from the DP, which are the two places that I get them. The three places I get work are other sound mixers, everyone here, et cetera, who we cover for each other, producers and directors who you've worked with, had a good experience, and number 3, DPs. And a lot of my best work comes from DPs. A ton of my best work comes from DPs. And so when your name is put forward as hire this person, like Blas said, you're in the driver's seat for that negotiation, because they were told by someone who said, this is my crew, hire them. Unless you are way out of bounds on your quotes, they're probably just going to give you what you want, because that will make that person who requested you happy. And that's what the line producer wants to do. So become a must hire for people and become the first call for people. And that will get you a ton of work, and that will get you a ton of confidence to quote your highest rates, probably receive them. And then the next time you get a random call and a cold call, you're less afraid to say, yeah, this is how much I charge, or this is how much it costs. And if you say that with confidence, most of the time they'll just pay you. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that reminds me of Jan McLaughlin. She was a must hire for many years with Edie Falco, and all the shows that Edie Falco did, Jan McLaughlin was a mixer, and she was a must hire because that's who the talent wanted. And that put her in the driver's seat to negotiate some really good deals for herself. And she, if you can, find that creative nucleus, establish yourself, and be the first call person, that puts you in the driver's seat. It's a very, very good point. So yeah, Blas had to step away. He had some other things to do, but I really thank Blas for showing up. He's always has incredible insight. But we're going to go ahead and continue the conversation. Let's go to Kyle.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of echo a few things that have been said, but I always it's always my goal to move the needle, and so I always want them to counter my first offer, and I often leave a negotiation if they accepted my first offer. I didn't ask for enough, I didn't ask for more, because I want to move that needle and I want to push it forward, and so I always shoot such a high number in the first conversation, and you see what their counter are. And often I'm surprised that their counter is a lot more is closer than what I expected, or, or they're willing to come up and meet. And to the point now where I have producers that know this, and they come to me offering more every job, because they know that, it's another year has gone by, that there's an automatic raise. So, it's something that I strive for, and I try to share as much as I can is you always continue to move the needle, and you want your first quote to be something that they counter. And if they don't counter, you didn't ask for enough.
Yeah. I think, and that's actually a negotiating technique called anchoring. I try to get a number out of them first, because they know their budget, they know their scope and scale. But if they're going to force me to do it, I'm going to anchor to a high number. And you always do that. And that number only has to make sense to me, because, if they haven't shared any information about their production, I'm going to anchor to a high number. There's no downside. Now, I will, depending on who I'm talking to and the tone of the conversation, I will put in the caveat that, look, this is what I normally work for, but just let me know what your reality is, and let's try to find some common ground. And so I try to open the door for them to counteroffer if they want to. But more often than not, especially if it's commercial, there's certain commercials and commercial production houses, also agencies, they get paid from their clients on a cost plus basis, a markup on production costs. So it's not in their best interest to find the best deal. They want to find the best person for the deal. and pay the regular market rates, because their agency is getting paid on a markup based on a markup of those production costs. So they're not looking for the best deal necessarily. That's another thing to keep in mind is cost plus, is cost plus earnings for the either the production company or the agency. And
I told you, Chris, have I told you that I had a conversation with a line producer, commercial line producer who I work with. We were doing spots for DirecTV, and he hired a pretty well-known DP. He'd shot some major films and stuff on that. And I said, how do you guys hire your DP? He's a friend. So I go, how do you guys, what's the process for hiring the DP for these? And he goes, oh yeah, the agency gets like a stack of reels and rates, and they just start at the most expensive one. That's where they start. They got 20 of them. They just go for the most expensive one. They're like, how about this one? And they're like, okay, that one didn't work out. What's the second most expensive one? Okay, that didn't work out. What's the third most expensive one? This is literally how he said they hired.
Right.
So put that in perspective when you're like, yeah, I need $475 for the bag rig, not $450. And they're like, we can't do $475. We just can't do it. $450 we can do. Put that in perspective.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, Lauren.
It's almost like being too cheap can make it be off-putting. Like, like if you're gonna buy a steak, you want a good deal on it. You don't want to pay like $100 for your steak, but if the steak's only $5, there might be something wrong with it.
Yeah, or like you need a haircut.
It's that classic. It's that classic bottle of wine where they, you think because it's expensive, it's got to be good.
Yeah, that does not go for haircuts, for the record. I'm just saying.
I just wanted to talk about. I think we had a good conversation about negotiating. I just want to talk about a little bit more about the business and organization side of things.
Please do.
I use QuickBooks Self-Employed, which is a more simple and cheaper version of QuickBooks. And if you're not hiring anyone, if you're a single member LLC or just sole proprietor, you don't really need all the extra fancy stuff of the full-fledged QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks Self-Employed is only $15 a month. I think it's a little cheaper if you pay for the whole year. And it's great because every time you make a purchase, you just hook up all your credit cards, you hook up all your bank accounts. Every time a transaction is made, you classify it, is that personal or business? And then you could even use it to keep track of your personal expenses, like how much am I spending on groceries every month. But the more important part is the business side. You can swipe on each transaction, say if it's business or personal, and you can choose which category it is. And then at the end of the year, you can export an Excel spreadsheet and just send that to your accountant, and they'll see like the breakdown of all of your categories of expenses. My favorite feature of it is they have a phone app that you can turn location services on, and you can track your mileage. So every time I take a trip in my car, it automatically tracks that I did that, and then I can swipe one way for personal and the other way for business. And if it was business, I can type in what was it for? Was it for a job? Was I going to a meeting or something like that? And then I never have to worry about having a spreadsheet of all my mileage. I don't have to go back in Google Maps and like, how many miles was that? I don't have to take pictures of my odometer. I just basically at the beginning of the year, just for safety, I say how many miles are on my car January 1st and then how many are on December 31st. But for all the business miles, I just categorize it automatically with QuickBooks.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Does anybody else have anything? Yeah, Tyler, go for it.
I was just going to actually piggyback on what Lauren was saying on the mileage thing. There's obviously lots of ways to do it. We're, especially with, I actually did this before all the Chat GPT stuff started kicking off, but like we've got a spreadsheet that we use as a company, just to kind of let a lot of people in. We're a little bit different of an operation. We've got 7 staff sound mixers and supervisors, so we do a variety of different things. But the way we sort of standardize it, I've got a spread. It's technically a Google sheet, but you can enter the locations as if it was as you would in Google Maps, be it an address or like the name of a stadium, for example, just in the start and the end, and it'll look it up in Google Maps and just put the mileage in automatically, calculate it all automatically. So I'd be happy to share that if anybody wanted to use something like that. It's just a real easy way. You can look at a call sheet, know what locations, especially handy across a lot of people that have different methods for everything, and just kind of churn through and keep up with mileage. But yeah, it's just another option on that sort of front.
the main thing to learn from what Lauren and Tyler are saying is that you have to treat your business as a business. Otherwise you're going to get killed in taxes. You want to make as much of your working life be, at least in terms of your finances, your life, for taxes and everything else like that, and have all the same advantages that, the big corporations have. And that's why I incorporated early on in my career, actually in 1981. So I'd had over 10 years of working just as a regular employee and trying to rent equipment and stuff like that. And once I was incorporated, everything became a business expense. I used to joke that I said anything that takes batteries or plugs into the wall is is deductible. Paid for a phone line, paid for all the internet stuff, and obviously handled the equipment rental as a true business.
Very cool. And as far as taxes, how many of us do our actually get our taxes done by April 15th, or how many of us do file for the extension and I know
I sent all my stuff to my accountant last month and I still haven't heard back, and I sent a reminder email and she's like, I'll get to you, and I'm like, it's April 1st.
No, Lauren, I'm in the same thing too. I gave him the taxes at the end of February and I'm like, where are you? And he's like, I'm traveling. Okay, there's a deadline.
What accountant travels in the beginning of the year? Like, wait till April 15th.
Not the right time to be taking a vacation, right?
You know what? I think it's probably one of those many people that now live in their vans and drive around as their telecommute job.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just took ours, or we sent all the stuff in last week, and then we had our meeting yesterday, and so everything got done. Usually we can get everything done in one meeting, but I have a dynamo of a partner and wife who preps everything, and she keeps after me about saving receipts and all the records. So at the beginning of the year, I pull the file of all the receipts from last year. And
well, she really knows the ropes. I'm sure she keeps everything in line.
She does. Yeah.
One of her many strengths.
Our meeting with the tax person, we've been using the same tax person now for the last 5 years or so. And that meeting's never more than 45 minutes. It's really, she has it so well set up that they can figure it out really quickly. So, but yeah, I'm spoiled in that respect when it comes to taxes. So that's why I'm really curious to hear how everybody else, deals with it. I think it's a big deal. Carlos.
Actually, yeah, I was actually going to ask you guys too, because I also have an LLC, but a lot of the work that sometimes I get hired for, because the companies are in California or New York, I'm always hired as, W-2. So I not only have all these W-2 to do at the end, but then I also have my LLC, which are also all those other expenses. So I think Lauren had talked about don't get into debt with equipment, but at the same time, well, it's a check to the IRS or it's a check to Gotham Sound. Which one am I going to pick? Usually I'll opt for I can get a wireless channel. It's just, I'd rather do that. But I was curious if anyone else has dealt with both those W-2s and 1099s and everything and getting it all balanced out.
Carlos, I'd say from our end, again, I know we're different, but we've gotten workers' comp. We've had it for a while, and because that's usually one of the main stipulations that they want, the differentiating factor. Just for reference, for 7 employees, it was about $800 a year or so. So if that's ever,
Can't you not get it on yourself though? If you're just a single member LLC, I don't think you can get workers' comp for yourself.
I believe it's a company policy, not a state law thing. I could be very wrong in that. Haven't been an LLC on that regard myself, so can't really.
So sometimes what I do is I ask them, can you just pay me minimum wage, like $250 on the W-2, and then pay the rest to my company? And a lot of people are okay with that. If not, they're almost always okay with paying my equipment through my LLC at the very least. I mean, I want to be able to deduct the mileage to set. So if I'm getting paid 100% as a W-2 employee, I know I can't. So I'm trying to get as much as I can in 1099 income.
You can always get your equipment, or almost always get your equipment through the through your company, right? But
yeah, but some people even then they don't want, like, they just don't want you to.
That's
Well,
interesting that they're willing to split it, some on the W-2 and some to your company.
I'm
Yeah.
actually curious because I did have a problem with a payroll company recently. It was Caps. So I was trying to set up a loan out so that I could get my equipment that way through my company. But then they said, according to their rules, oh, you're an LLC and you don't qualify. You have to be an actual corporation, and we need to
Yeah,
tax you that way.
that's
And
for like caps and casting crew. I know that, like, I can't, if I'm a boom op and I'm getting like a $15, $30, $50 a day kit rental, I can't get it paid through my company. But you have to talk to the production company directly. Like, for example, the company I worked with last week is using caps. They're paying me my labor through caps, but they can just pay my equipment regularly. So a lot of times, especially if you mention that they could do it on a credit card, they're like, yes, credit card, let's do it. Even if you, sometimes even if you charge them the 3.5%, they just love paying things on credit cards. So if you're if you're able to accept credit cards, sometimes that helps you get paid faster.
Love that idea, for sure. Cool. Is there anything else we want to add to keeping your business organized, taxes, finding jobs? I feel like we covered organizing your network. I've certainly benefited from those moments when there's something I need to figure out quickly. And, it is, I found that it's better to reach out to your personal friends one-on-one than it is to post to a big, Facebook or social media group. Because, having those friends that really understand the way you work and the way your brain works and approaches things, it's good to have that personal network developed in order to reach out to them. So
I'll tell you, I was very surprised because it's so unlike my career, the ways in which people get work, where your recommendations come from, and that was very interesting because we have a wide variety of people here that do actually a lot of jobs that are the sort of jobs that I never actually even did in my career, because I was primarily feature films. And once I got in the union, everything I did was a union job. And I was always able to negotiate over scale, I think, on every job except for one of the 80 feature films that I've done. But so many of the jobs that I got, if it wasn't repeat business for someone who I'd already, and I did have a lot of repeat business, the same directors who said, we got to get Jeff and Don to do the job, would come from, I've had recommendations from picture editors, from, people in sound editorial, and stuff like that. And I like those recommendations the best. I mean, I'll take any recommendation, but the recommendations that I'm least happy about are the ones that come from production managers who just, they have their own agenda, and it's usually only about money and time and stuff like that. But so it's interesting the number of people that you have to rely on to get your work.
Yeah, very good, Doc.
Yeah, I just want to encourage people to have these discussions directly with your accountant regarding whether it's best for you to be an LLC or an S corp, or how to structure your business. There are a lot of variables based on what you own and what you spend that may differ from person to person. And also, as a reminder that, like, a lot of this advice, as incredible and as invaluable as it may be, really fluctuates person to person and situation to situation. There are some situations and some people who are more comfortable with more risk than others, who have more confidence than others in negotiating, who, some people have different strategies in that we have seen people successfully buy all of the gear, load it up on credit cards and in debt, and build a package. And then the clients and shows have come from that, from them having all of the equipment available immediately at once. And we've seen other people have success where they've waited to purchase equipment until the right show or job comes along. There's no one way to skin this cat. And I just encourage people to continue to talk to each other, to your colleagues and peers, to talk to the professionals where advice is really needed. We are the first people to say to production, you know, hire a sound mixer, hire a professional. When talking about sound, when talking about taxes and stuff, hire a professional. Take our own advice. So I just want everyone to realize and remind ourselves, we're all getting through this together. No one way is the right way. You know, it's the old Senator, it depends motto. And, you know, just keep talking to each other and keep asking questions, because I think these things are very valuable.
Very good. And I certainly appreciate you jumping on with us and adding the valuable insight. It's been really cool. And I appreciate you being here, Doc.
Thanks.
Yeah. So as we wrap it up, feel free to jump in with any final thoughts. I wanted to thank K-Tek once again for sponsoring us and giving us helping take our platform abroad and helping to help people. We're trying to empower people to organize their own communities around the world. We're a lot of us are based in LA, and this is where we live and work, but every the Vancouver region, Kyle's doing great work up there. Lauren's doing really great work in New York, and Tyler in Dallas, and Jeff kind of paved the way for us with JW Sound. But I really want to encourage you to help organize your local sound communities. Reach out to those people in your market, even if it's a very small market. Be on a one-on-one basis, first name basis with each other, because if you guys support each other, I mean, we all get a little stronger, and definitely what we do is connected. The way I do my work here in LA is much like other sound engineers on sets around the world. So there's a lot of things that we have in common, and hopefully this video chat will continue to help bring those things to the surface. I want to thank Kyle, Lauren, Tyler, Jeff Wexler. Thank you all for coming, and also,
Chris, do you think it's unique to our sound community, these sorts of this sort of networking? I mean, do camera guys do all this sort of stuff? I think we're more social and more in touch with each other than. But,
I think so too. I think every time I've seen other sound mixers that come visit me on set, or if we just happen to be shooting next to another company, the sound, I've had so many DPs tell me, like, do you guys know each other? And we're like, no, we just met. But they're like, wow.
What do you think, Lauren?
What was that?
Are we unique in terms?
I think so, because I think sound, we're kind of like the outcasts. A lot of other departments kind of don't really like us. So we
bonded on that.
They don't think about us, so we kind of unite on the fact that, like, no one cares about sound. And although I have seen grips like really pushing for high rates too, like they get around the same labor that we do, and I've been starting to see that movement, at least here in New York. But camera, forget it. It's all like every man for himself.
Camera is completely cutthroat, and every DP, when I mention another DP, I go, oh yeah, it's working this other DP. They go, who's that? Oh, okay, yeah.
That's
no,
funny,
I don't know him. And whereas sound people, whenever we mention a mixer or something, everyone's like, oh yeah, I know that mixer. That person's really cool. I talked to them and I had a beer with them. So I do think we're unique, Jeff. I think it's a really cool thing that we've got going on here. And
I certainly love it.
You and Chris are two of the main inventors of that, by the way. So
Chris has been the absolute master of getting us to be more social than we might be otherwise. And keeping the communication open, and I've been forever grateful. I mean, even the first get-togethers that Steve Morantz pretty much put together, we'd have these really casual luncheons and all that, but I'd always wondered over the years whether other crew people do as much of that as we do, and not just talking about rates, but talking about, I think what Lauren is saying, the fact that we are sort of outcast, nobody really understands us or even appreciates us most of the time, that we had to bond together. So
yeah,
I dig it.
It's funny when you mention that about DPs, Adam, because you know who also, what other pack group of people acts like that, exactly like that, is comedians. I have a few friends that are comedians, and they try.
Really?
And I had this one friend of mine who's a fairly well-known comedian, and I would hang out with him, and then there would always be like these, you know, 4 to 8 other people just kind of hanging out, and I haven't hung out with him in years because I can't keep up. Like, I'm older, I can't do that anymore, and so I haven't seen him in a long time. But I remember hanging out with him, and I would just make some offhanded joke, and my friend who's the comedian would laugh, but then everybody else would be like, are we supposed to laugh at that guy? He's not. So them is like, for them, laughing at your joke is currency, and they're not going to give it to you. If they don't know, they'll laugh at my friend's joke because he's a well-known comedian, and they're kind of sucking up to him. But you know, but then it was just funny. Like they don't want to acknowledge a funny thing in the room, and if they do, it's like them conceding something. It's just such a weird vibe.
Comedians are some of the most tortured individuals that exist, in my experience. There's some dark stuff going on there to do what they do.
There's a lot of jockeying for position going on, and it's all subliminal. It's crazy, and I've seen similarities in the camera crews, you know, because there is a second AC ready to push the first AC down the stairs, and then, you know. But Carlos,
actually, well, Chris, since I have you here, I know I sent you an email a while back because going off the whole community thing that you guys are talking about, I was looking to possibly like apply to CAS, and I was actually curious if any of you guys are members, and does being part of an organization like that also help kind of build, you know, your network and everything?
Great question. That's a great question. Who wants to take the first stab at that? I have an answer for that, but I'd love to.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a CAS member for 20 years or whatever, or more.
You've been on the board too, right?
Yeah, I've been on the board for many, many years. I'm having to take a year off now because we have term limits in place, but it's still very open to having former board members attend meetings and stuff like that. And it's everybody's individual choice. Whether I mean, I know a lot of people, particularly when the whole Atlanta thing got going, a lot of people wanted to join just because they wanted CAS after their name, because somehow that would lift them somewhat above this whole influx of everyone has to go to Atlanta and start working, or they wanted the screeners or whatever. But I think it's you know, if you can afford it, it's a good thing. And as an organization, it's one of the few organizations that really is committed to their charter, which is the advancement of sound, and very much inclusive of production and post. In other words, almost everything we do is organized around the fact that there shouldn't be like production people to do all their things and post people to do all their things. And there's this big divide, which for a lot of reasons, you know, they're producers and people with money and people in positions of power want to keep that separated. And there are people in post that want to keep it separated also, because, you know, they're recipients of our tracks, and they say, you know, well, this is all shit, but I can fix it, you know, but it's going to take a lot of time and cost you a lot of money. You know, but I wouldn't say that's true of all post people. But I think that that's one of the big values. And the events that we do, unfortunately, are very much located, you know, either in Los Angeles or in New York, even though we are an international organization. We try and do things every year. We try and do things internationally, or at least do things in New York. So that's a factor, because, you know, you're paying your dues, and you're not, you know, you may get CAS after your name, which may be of some value to you. But in terms of the things that we actually do, you know, if you're somewhere else, like, you know, with you, Carlos, in Texas and all, I don't know how much you could actually participate in things. You know, all the events that we do, we try and do as much you know, recording and videotaping and stuff like that, so this stuff ends up online on the CAS website. And I know I'm going to be doing major
flights are cheap from El Paso to LA. There's direct flights, so it's it's New York I have trouble getting to.
Good. And we have a new president, Peter Kurland, who is Tennessee, and he's still living in Tennessee, but he said that he's willing to, you know, our last several years of meetings have all been Zoom meetings because of COVID. So that he will, be able, if we continue the Zoom meetings, it'll be fine. He's going to be a great president, I think. He's very energetic. He's very smart. And, but, he's in Tennessee, so we'll see how that all works out.
Yeah, it's, I remember for me, it was, I went to a few of the events that were open to, non-members, and I had a nice, I guess what moved the needle for me about it was that was the first time I'd been able to meet and talk with dialogue editors and re-recording
right.
And
excellent.
And they had a lot of, turns out they had a lot of questions about our work and how the challenges that we face, because sometimes they're listening to our coverage on the other end going,
they have no idea.
And so I, that's what really sealed it for me joining, was because I wanted to meet more dialogue editors. I wanted to meet more re-recording mixers, the people whose work our work touches them. And I always think it's really neat to be able to talk to those people. On the last few episodic shows that I worked on, I kind of had to talk myself into it. But I would reach out to the audio post supervisor and find out who the re-recording mixers were, the dialogue editors. And then I offered to just go, like, can I come by and sit in on a spotting session? And they're all kind of, it's the same answer. It's like, okay, fine. Like they don't really understand why I would want to be there. But when I get there, it becomes really apparent. I can sit there for 5 minutes and they have 5 questions for me. What happened here? What was this? What was this? And then
I learned so much from being able to sit in on stuff. And I had sat in on mixes before I was even doing sound, through my father and through pictures that he had shot. And, I'd be on the dub stage at Todd AO, and it was just so helpful because we're all working on the same project, and there's no reason to have this huge divide that, there's production and all, but there's a division that's created by budgets. The people that preside over the production budget usually have almost nothing to do with the post-production budget. So it's so important.
I would say, and if you're in LA, I mean, CAS is becoming more of a global organization. But if you're around the world too, I mean, there's in Germany they have BVFT, and then in Italy they have AITS, and the UK
AMPS,
yeah. So there's other honors organizations around the world too, that are really, it's interesting to just keep track of what they're talking about, what those conversations are. And we're really, thankful to have BVFT supporting us in Germany when we get there, and AITS is supporting us in Italy. So, these are all organizations that have a really, really good opportunities, and it's interesting to just experience the world from that side of things too.
Does that help with your question, Carlos? Or I mean, I can't give you any specific direction whether it's a good idea or a bad idea to join CAS, but
no, it was more just asking you guys being members. Again, it is another feather in the cap, but it is also something that I did want to do that, especially because I'm teaching at a university now, and I teach production and post, and I do production and post. So even when I'm doing my own sound, I know what will constitute as like, ooh, dialogue editor is going to be real mad at that. Like, I need to fix that.
You may or may not know, Carlos, but I have taught a number of classes. And originally I was going to be a school teacher. I had no intention of getting in the film business. And I still have my teaching chops, and I love that. And one of the main things we talk about is this division, and the fact that if you're doing production work, you really need to understand post. Because it's one process. It's not just, show up and record stuff and then forget about it.
Yeah, I always say the perfect sound design for a film is when you don't know where production sound ended and the post process began. So when you listen to it and you can't tell, that's when you know it's done right. So we're gonna. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, but there's so many forces working against that idea, they really don't want you talking to post. Post feels they don't have the time to talk to you anyway. They'd rather just bash you later once the tracks come in.
I've experienced a little more cooperation in the past few years.
Oh, I mean, I'm not speaking so much for myself. I'm just speaking on behalf of a lot of people. I've heard the stories. I mean, throughout my career, I had just wonderful experiences.
Oh, that's great.
With post. So,
well, we sound people are a different breed. We get along with anyone.
Yep. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the recording, but we're gonna hang out for a bit after if anybody has any questions they want to ask that don't want on the stream. But I always forget to mention this every time, and I'm not gonna forget it this time. K-Tek has been a huge sponsor for us, and they've if you're in the LA area, they have given me, and I don't know if you can see it. I'm gonna put it, yeah, here.
a green pole.
Yes, this is the K-Tek Classic chroma key green pole, and
Okay, but where's the purple one?
I know, right? Well, sleeves.
Lauren wants the purple one.
Yeah, I have the green sleeves that Simon Hayes put out. That's also green, but he has the purple version as well. So
nice.
That's the alternative there. But K-Tek had this for years at their trade show, and it was a display piece that they had. This is the I want to say it's the 202, so 16 feet 10 inches. If you were in LA and you know who of us can afford a green pole just to have all the time? None of us really. But they had this as part of their display booth for many years, and then it was leaning against the wall at their shop. And I was visiting them once, and the thing slid over and hit me in the head, and I was like, "What is this for?" And then so she said, "Take it." Brenda and Tino both were like, "Take it. Hang on to it. If anybody in the LA Sound Mixers community or in the LA area needs to borrow a green boom pole for whatever shoot you have coming up, call me.
Chris will be the guy that has it. Yep.
Yeah, it sits here in my shop. Come by, pick it up. As long as you bring it back, it's totally cool. No charge, courtesy of K-Tek. They just they would love to just see it out there working. And so if anybody is in LA and you find yourself needing a chroma key green boom pole, reach out to me, lasoundmixer@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on the socials. But this is here courtesy of Brenda and Tino at K-Tek. If anybody needs it, another way they're just helping support us. So with that, thank you so much everybody for attending, and we'll go ahead and stop the recording here, but we'll hang out for a little more if anybody wants to hang out. You guys take it easy. Thanks for coming.
I wanted to say one more important thing for the record. Today is Peter Schneider's birthday.
Hey,
and
we will include this.
Yes, he said that nobody believes him when he says his birthday is April 1st. So if you see Peter online, just for those of you who don't know, he owns Gotham Sound. So just say happy birthday, Peter.
Happy birthday, Peter. He's a great guy.
Peter, a huge help in Safe and Sound.
Birthday.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Take care.
So